What's up, guys? It's the podcast thing we've been talking about.
Welcome, everybody. This is the CHG Gaming Podcast.
I'm here.
We have David
in Washington. Have they ever seen me?
Flesh.
Hi.
In the flesh for our very first episode.
This is me.
Of the podcast that we've been talking about for what?
This is the voice. This is the face of the voice that you've been hearing.
Why you pointing at me? You mean you pointing at them?
But you've been hearing it too.
Well, I always hear it. Want to say that one more time for the mic to pick up?
In your dreams. Is that better?
Yeah, they're much better.
All right.
So this is the podcast where basically we're talking about just gaming.
Yeah, gaming. Sense. I mean, games, game news,
the
gaming
industry,
trends,
the industry, our thoughts on it.
Yeah,
philosophical discussions about Jesus.
And
in
games,
and
in games. I'm trying to keep this in games. I don't know about you. We could talk about that one Bible game. We just need to find more.
The one that never came to fruition?
No, the one that did, the NES one.
Oh, I've heard about that.
Yeah. So we could talk about Jesus in this.
But I don't know anything about it.
But that's why we need to research like real podcasters.
Or I should just download a ROM and then play it on my computer.
Absolutely.
And then we could play it on the channel. And then you can either qualify how accurate some of the things are that are in the game.
Yeah. Heck, if y'all want us to do that, then let us know.
So watch. Anyways, yeah, this is basically what the podcast is going to be. This one's obviously in person.
Special.
But, all subsequent
First
ones
edition
will be remote because this loser lives in Texas.
Yes.
With all the other losers that live in Texas.
Yeah.
Sorry if you live in Texas, but sorry you're a loser. It's okay.
I think most of our audience live not in America.
Yeah, I keep saying that, but the people in the Discord keep disagreeing with me. Apparently that's not true.
You're the one that told me. So
I am, and I keep thinking that's the case, and it's apparently not the case. I guess it's because most people that I talk to within the Discord are out of the country. Or our country, not your country. They're in your country. Like the people who
no other country other than America's a country.
Yeah, all you guys are not
because we have a monopoly on every word ever
on all the countries.
On just the word country. Everything else is like a place. It's not a country.
It's just a destination to go to.
A vacation spot.
Just a vacation spot.
Until you come home to America.
Sorry, we're still wiping off the previous president from our minds. He got into all our brains at some point.
Just Trumpisms.
Yeah, I'm sure that wasn't it also like Obama-isms?
There's isms to everything.
Yeah. What's a David-ism?
I forgot.
That is a David-ism. That is a proper. That is a fucking token. That's a David token statement. I forgot. Or fucking, hey man, I don't know. Or concussion.
David, that's your job.
David, don't you work here? I don't know.
You remember when I used to make up pre-order bonuses at GameStop?
I don't.
You didn't? Oh yeah. When someone would ask me what the pre-order bonus for something was, I didn't know. But, I didn't want to look like I didn't know. So I would just be like, say they were like, it was like Call of Duty. I'd be like, oh, yeah, it's gun skin. I didn't know it was gun skin. There was a pretty good chance it was a gun skin.
To your credit, it was a good chance. It was good.
But I didn't know for sure. I would just make up stuff. And like sometimes Evan would come out and be like, Davis, it's not, it's this. And I'm like, yeah, it's that.
And then Evan has to go in the back.
It's like, I can't believe I'm working for this guy.
Space Cadet David at him again. That was your name for him. He called you Space Cadet.
Oh, he did?
All the time.
I didn't know.
So Evan, if you're watching this, I know your secret. You used to call him a Space Cadet, but it's not wrong.
No, yeah, it's justified. I'm fine with it. Like, hey, I recognize my faults, and I recognize, what is my strengths. Obviously,
quite honestly, both of you talk shit about each other, so it was mutual.
I loved Evan.
You both love each other. You loved him more, but you both talk shit about each other. To me, to me because I was I'm the lower worker, so I get to hear everyone's bullshit.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, at least it wasn't Joel.
Well, everyone talks shit about Joel. You know what,
Joel? If you're watching, I hate you.
He hates you, and he's now ready to let it all out.
Hey, Joel, I hate you.
Should we dedicate an episode to Joel?
We're definitely going to, especially because I'm not going to be with GameStop like all too much. Well, I'm going to be, but like not in a manager position.
And SGA is a manager position. Don't take that from me, okay? That's what I was. That's what I left GameStop as. Don't take that from me. All right, you give me the respect I deserve. I had a key.
That's true.
I had a key.
You were allowed to work by yourself.
The store, and I closed the store sometimes by myself.
And you put on your pants one leg at a time like a big boy.
A little extra high for those days.
But you still had trainers on because
what?
Could have pooped your pants.
What?
So my joke broke the camera.
Whatever, just go.
Or goes in.
Shut up. Just go and tell your story.
Anyway, sorry. So Biomutant.
Want to say that again?
Segue.
Biomutant. You say like Biomutant. Biomutant came out today.
Yes.
The day of this recording, May 24th.
We played it.
And we did not play
it. A long time ago.
Never, yes, correct. You caught me on the second half. You caught me on the second half on that one.
Yeah. In 2017, 2018?
We went to not E3. I wish.
PAX.
We went to PAX, which is Painting Arcade Expo. Maybe you've heard it, maybe you haven't.
Yeah.
It's the biggest gaming convention.
So there was things called gaming conventions before 2020 that people went to.
Yeah, crazy.
With groups of people.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Without
masks. Without anything on their face.
Crazy.
It's crazy. People would walk around freely.
Before 4 times.
Before 4 times.
Anyway, so we played a lot of stuff there, but the one thing that stuck out,
bro, hold on. BC is gonna be changed before Corona. 2019 BC before Corona.
Anyway, so we played a lot of games, but one of the games that stuck out to both of us,
more you, I think,
me, was a game called Biomutant.
Yeah, by THQ Nordic, everyone's favorite publisher.
Yeah.
I love those guys, man. I just love they're just ridiculous. Because they're in on it. They're in on the meme. Like when you hear about them in the headlines, it's like THQ acquires yet another publisher developer on like their road to global domination or something. Like it's the best.
I think though that doesn't Microsoft own them now?
No. THQ's been they're by themselves.
Oh, okay. Anyway. But it was a fun game, kind of quirky with this rodent thing, and it was cool.
Confused because I played it too, and I was confused how I beat the boss. That was kind of a weird.
Yeah,
that was a struggle.
It was a little bit weird.
That was,
weird. And now you guys probably seeing it in YouTube because like it's in every like ad and all these paid sponsors for like all these video game companies have been running ads for it. But anyway, it came out and it got meh reviews.
Yeah. Across the board too. Like it's not like meh here, but then like great otherwise.
Well, hold on.
Oh, I forgot Facebook.
Facebook gave it a 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
So
you could trust you some Facebook.
Yeah.
Reviews,
so maybe we shouldn't be too harsh on this. You know.
Okay. I mean, I'm not gonna be harsh. I mean, it's
I'm still looking forward to playing. I really want to play this game.
I will play it eventually because I was reading I saw a blurb from one review and it said like something about the game reminded was like the weapons and stuff was akin to like Ratchet and Clank. And stuff because of how wacky and zany they were.
But I also heard that's part of the game that kind of holds it back is the combat.
I don't know. I mean, if you put anything like Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Daxter in my face, I'm like, hey, I'll at least look at it. I will at least look at it.
I was excited because of how much customization they said that it had. Yeah, it has a mass amount of customization and personal choice.
Boy.
Yeah,
you are.
So I'm that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I mean, we'll play it. I'll play it eventually. Maybe we'll play it on the channel. Who knows? It's just kind of disappointing. Yeah,
there wasn't better.
It's disappointing.
And of course, maybe we might think differently.
But the big thing that I think hits the nail on the head that you said that you caught from a review that you watched was that everything or most things about the game, mechanics, ideas, concepts, the combat, the design,
customization,
everything, it's great if it came out when it was supposed to.
Yeah.
Since it's 2021. And we now have we also have like the next generation of games, and we're already seeing what they can do.
Before, I mean, you got to think about in 2008 or 2018, that was before things like Horizon Zero Dawn, DMC.
I don't think Horizon. DMC maybe, but I don't think Horizon.
Right, I thought it was before Horizon.
It was 2017.
But Spider-Man
for
like
sure.
some really good action RPG games came out that kind of like set the stage for what action adventure is going to be. And basically what this feel like is just it's just
2017.
Okay, so right about the same time then. It would have come out right about the same time.
I think God of War came out a year later. So, but
God of War was a year later.
Before God of War.
Yeah, it was. So like, it just came out a little bit too late, is what this one publisher was saying. So we'll have to see. But I think what our discussion was, and what really would be good for this podcast is like, what makes an indie game an indie game?
Yeah, because he says it's an indie game. I don't think so.
That's what I had heard.
Because that's what people, I guess, other reviewers are saying. Like for an indie game, this indie game, that indie game,
the indie
whatever.
game that could.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like, I remember playing the game. Even the demo did not represent an indie game. Now I don't. And here's the thing: like I can't even say like are indie games just getting better because they're not.
Well, no, like I think you think indie as a stylistic choice, which it's just like how big the studio is. Because there's like
but is that really all that you need to define it? I mean, that defines an indie studio, but maybe there's a separation between indie studio and indie game. There can be a difference, in my opinion.
Yeah, but like, what defines an indie game for you?
Because because like, if a game, maybe you might be right, because I was gonna say, 2012, Ubisoft came out with the game I Am Alive.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Mm.
Yeah, it came out like right before Last of Us came out. It's basically Last of Us light. Like if you want to get a taste of what Last of Us might be like, play I Am Alive. It's not bad. I got it for free. I would have bought it anyways. It was on my radar anyways. It is essentially the same thing. It is a post-apocalyptic, survival-based, third-person adventure game. Story sucks, but like the same mechanics, sort of. You got to scrap for scavengers. You got to find a few survivors, and you can like help people or not help people in some instances and stuff like that. But like, I guess because like when a big publisher who has obviously that's a huge they're gonna have hundreds of people. Maybe on that particular project they might have had like 30. I don't know, right? But no one calls that an indie game. But could you call it an indie game?
I think it depends on how many people are working on it.
That scope of that game, it was like $15 when it came out.
And I would say
it felt like it felt like a $15 game. It really did. It felt you got as much as what you got paid for. Like it didn't feel like you're getting a deal or a huge value. You're like, yeah, this is about a $15 worth game in my opinion. I agree with that. Like it's about
and that made it okay.
6-8 hours. But the conversation we're having though is like, is that considered an indie game? And then to a further extension, is Biomutant an indie game?
So and I would have to look in, like I was trying to Google like what defines an indie game. I would garner that it's how many people working on it. Like what's the size of the studio?
I agree to an extent because like usually what goes along with a smaller studio is a smaller budget and then a smaller scope.
Yeah, I mean even budget, because like I believe that No Man's Sky is an indie game. But they had an extreme budget.
Yeah, they had millions of dollars from Sony.
Yeah, but it was still an indie game because the studio was super small.
The studio, I will agree. People who know Hello Games, they were everything up until No Man's Sky. I believe all they had done before that was mobile games. I think it was just mobile games. So yeah, they were a smaller mobile studio. I guess you could call it an indie studio in the sense of console games, but that's all they were. But then you look at how, even though no one got anything they said.
They are now though.
I know. I'm talking 2016 or 2015, whatever it was. I mean, no one got what they were supposed to get with that game. But even the amount that was in the game was still more than any indie game would have ever been able to bring.
Yeah. To the table. So what Wikipedia defines as indie game is an independent video game or indie game is a video game typically created by individuals or smaller development teams without the financial and technical support of a large game publisher, in contrast to most AAA games.
You see, so it's like a mix then.
Yeah, I guess so.
You have the studio requirement, but you also have what goes with that, the budgetary requirement. which then can lead to the scope requirement of what can be an indie game.
I also think too, what kind of defines it in less of like a technical standpoint, but like, is it the developer's game? I think is also because like when you're talking about a AAA game, you have a lot of the publisher coming in and like really messing with it, like an Anthem, and like, hey, like hey, developers, we want this as a publisher, and because we're backing you, you have to do it. Whereas a more indie game, you get that decision making. Now, you that's not always the case because you have people like Naughty Dog, who I don't think the publishers talk to Naughty Dog.
They tried,
and then Naughty Dog was like, work. Yeah, Naughty Dog was like,
because they wanted the only thing I know for sure that Sony tried to get involved in was they in the marketing. They wanted to on the box it has Ellie in the front.
Yeah.
They wanted Joel in the front.
Yeah.
But they were like, no. Ellie is the focal point. Without Ellie, there's no story.
Yeah.
So they wanted Ellie be in the front. That's all. I'm not saying that's all they did, but that's all I know.
But generally speaking, if you're a AAA game, you're gonna have a lot more push from the publishers. Mm-hmm. Whereas an indie game, you don't get that. It's a lot more their vision. Which I think BioShock.
They're funded. That's why.
And I think Biomutant like is definitely the publisher's vision. It's just they didn't happen fast enough. And so they kind of got taken back. But we're definitely gonna play it. We can talk about it on the podcast once I played it, at the very least, because I'm gonna play it right when I get home.
I'm sure. Yeah, you're really excited for this game.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I'll be honest with it.
I feel we can have like. I feel like there's. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but it's a fun discussion to have nonetheless. I mean, because it's not like it's this problem, if it even is one, comes up that often when you have a game that has a lot of funding or substantial.
And
funding.
I think the reason why we need to find it is because I think that we need to be more critical about video games, especially AAA video games, and what they give to us. Things like, and I think this is definitely more prevalent today because of games like Cyberpunk. Games like Cyberpunk who drop the ball. And I think everybody realizes that. But even games like Call of Duty or Madden or these games that come out every year that make buku bucks, but have crap that's wrong with them every year, and nobody says anything. So I think we need to start being more critical, but also I think indie games we can give a little bit more slack to because of the more restrictions that they're put on it. So we have to, I think that's why it's important to define
that's true.
them.
And I will, to piggyback on that, I feel because it can set expectations better for people. Like, because no one, like I didn't even know up until a long time afterwards when No Man's Sky Kaisha came out that they were technically a mobile developer. I didn't know that at first, and I'm sure most people didn't know that at first. Because why would you say that, right?
Yeah, it's not something. We developed little clicky games.
Yeah, no one ever. I don't think anyone ever really. But it's important because like no one ever asked what they did before.
It was just like, this is backed by Sony.
Yeah, and we got all this stuff going on. People are like, yeah, and no one took a second to step back and ask like,
what are you guys?
What's your guys' fucking cover sheet? What's your was it CS or whatever, your CV, like what are your credentials? What makes you qualified to make this big of a game? Have you done something like this before? No one took a second to take a step back. And I feel like if more people like, especially, and that's more of a ball on like the journalists, the people reporting stuff, they didn't even have like these more like, more investigative pieces or the more reported pieces or opinion pieces of like, hey, I don't know if we should be this hyped for this game because XYZ. And I feel like people were like, if more people were about that, creating a more realistic expectation, people would have been like, okay, at least maybe it wouldn't have been as bad. It would have been bad, but it wouldn't have been as bad.
Yeah, it's like, and so in following back, circling back around the Biomutant, I think that if Biomutant is an indie-sized team, and maybe they got a little bit of money infusion from THQ Nordic and stuff like that.
They did.
But I think if it's a indie-sized team making this passion project, if you will, I think I can give them a little bit slack, especially if they come out soon. Like the game's not even technically released yet, but once it gets released and gamers start saying the same things that our reviews are saying, if that's the case, and they come out and say, hey, cool, we hear you, we're going to fix what we can fix, I think that we then can give them a little bit more slack. Of course, if this game goes totally unchanged and stuff, I'll have a different opinion on it.
Well, that's the case with any game. I mean,
True.
big or small developer.
But
If they just
But with an
ignore
indie team, I'll give them a little bit of time because they don't have that staff.
yeah, sure.
If Anthem was unacceptable for how long it took for them to get it in anywhere near working conditions. Same with Cyberpunk. It took way too long to get it into a working state.
Yeah, we heard about that game from like 2013, I believe, when we first heard about Cyberpunk.
I don't even care like how long it's been. I care about like how long from when they knew there was a problem to when they fixed it.
Oh, that's the long time it takes to make a problem.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, with a team like that big, you should really make it pretty swiftly.
So I guess we'll ask you guys like what do you guys define as what is indie to you? Does it matter, the scope of the project? Does it matter the backing, the team size? Like what is an indie game to you guys? And at the same time, like how much slack do you give an indie team developers in comparison to like AAAs? Do you give them more? Is it the same for you? Do you not care? You just want a good working game from the get either way? So what do you guys
And
feel?
to a further extension, if it's a relatively unknown team, but they're backed by a bigger publisher, do you still give them a similar lens as you would a proper independent developer without a publisher?
Yeah.
Because that matters too, because that happens sometimes. I don't know who made Biomutant.
Oh, 101 something.
101
Interactive.
I've never
I think.
heard of that.
Yeah, well, exactly.
So like it's just an instance like this, when you have a relatively unknown developer who happens to get the funding, more or less they're kind of acting like an angel investor for that game.
Experiment 101.
I never heard of them, and I'm sure you haven't either. So like when that happens, do you still give them the same level of forgiveness in the short term as you would a regular independent developer? Because on one end I can see why you wouldn't, but on the other end I can see why it's totally deserved for them. Especially because they might be, you have no idea, none of us have any idea how out of their depth they may be feeling especially if you didn't have experience making these big budget games like Hello Games did. Obviously it was clear that they had no idea what they were doing. They were so out of their depth. You don't go from mobile to the PS4/PC and make something of that freaking scope.
But then I also
don't do that.
I was thinking No Man's Sky is a good example too, because it released in a shit shape, but they had the passion and the stick to itness to like it's way better now.
And they may have had
they got freaking the Normandy.
Yeah, and they may have had a small enough team, like you said, to be nimble enough to, like you said,
to get it done,
to know the problems that were there and then get going on it right away, which they did. They didn't take 3 years to do. They were on that. They brought it to the PC and they got it to the Xbox, which we were not expecting. They have been on PC this for 4 years. And when they got it to a good state, and
it's all been done. Free too.
Yeah, except for the most latest update. I think this one is paid.
That was paid. But still, that's a lot of
everything
for free.
Else was free because they knew they were wrong. They had to. But even when the game was at
tell that to Anthem,
they just stopped. They just came up. Even when the game was at where it was supposed to be initially 4 years ago, they still haven't stopped. To their credit, they still were like, we can still keep. Now they can basically do proper DLC.
Yeah.
All this other extra stuff was basically just like the content that should have been in. Now they're like, okay, now we're doing actual DLC. And so I feel like it might be because their team wasn't that big.
Yeah, probably
it's not that big. So I think even though they're backed by Sony, the team itself making it is not that big. So they might have the ability. I don't think nobility is a word, but they have mobility, swiftness. They have the swiftness to be able to, make the changes right away and keep at it without going through so much red tape, which is what Anthem's problem was from what I read. Even the development side, there was so much red tape.
Got to get things approved and everything.
With all the different studios in different countries, all that back and forth led to a lot of minutia. And that's what slowed down the development side of it. And then EA made it even worse
by being EA.
By being
that's
EA,
it.
Yeah.
Just like EA situation worse.
Yeah, honestly. It didn't matter what was going to happen. EA would have made it worse. But they were already in hot shit before EA ever showed up. Because remember, it was in pre-production for a year.
Yeah.
Or year and a half, which is insane. From at least according to standards, I don't know, but according to industry standards, that's insane. We
find it to be insane.
It's insane, apparently. So that whole situation was just bad from start to finish. honestly.
Well, anyway, guys, we gotta wrap this up. Thank you for joining us for the very first CHG podcast. Well, not very first, but first of the new edition. Thanks for joining us.
This is the very first podcast.
Okay, the very first podcast. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for saying you guys wanted to hear just us doofuses talk and crap. And I'm really happy that we were able to do it in person. I miss this guy. It's been 2.5 years since I've seen this face in person. And I missed it. So
I didn't miss that.
He missed me.
I didn't miss that.
He missed all of it.
Not at all. Not one bit. So let us know. Like David said, let us know what you have your thoughts on indie. Because I know a lot of you guys from the Discord play indie. Some of you guys roll your entire channels around it.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys probably are more exposed to it than we are. So hey, give us your thoughts, what you think it is. And also let us know if you've had a shitty employee.
Yeah, that too. And then the next podcast should be, I mean, we had no idea what we were going to talk about today. So the next podcast should have more not
direction,
scripted, but direction in what we're trying to talk about. So we appreciate it. If you guys liked what you think you heard here, let us know. We're gonna do more episodes because I just love talking to this guy.
What do you think? What do you guys thought you heard?
What do you think you heard?
You didn't hear what you thought you heard.
Was it like aliens? Like, are you sure we're even here?
Well, he's wide enough to blend in with the fucking air. So
we need to do makeup. Anyway, guys, we love you. Thanks for listening to us.
Goodbye, guys.
Be stupid.